Story 1. The Visitor in the Window. I was around 5 years old, staying with my dad in a small ground-floor apartment after my parents split up. It was midsummer. The nights were hot, so we kept the windows open, especially the one right above his bed's headboard. One night I woke up. Our cat was sitting silently in the doorway. Strange, because he always slept in the bed with us. I stared at him. He stared into my bedroom across the hall, and then he walked in there and let out a sharp meow. I turned to wake my dad. It only took a few seconds, but when we both looked back up, there was a man standing at my bedroom door. He didn't say a word, just turned and started walking out. I don't know how he did it so fast, but my father grabbed me and threw me through the screen window. Then he climbed out behind me and screamed for help. The police found no signs of forced entry, just an unlocked front door. My dad swore he locked it that night. Chain, deadbolt, everything. A week later, he was cleaning the kitchen and opened the water heater closet. There was a notebook. Inside, names, creepy drawings, and a pair of gloves. Police believed the man had been hiding in our apartment, waiting for us to fall asleep. I still sleep with the door locked. Every night. Story 2. Under the bed. This happened to a friend of mine, Rocky. He was in his early 20s, working as an English tutor in South Korea. One evening, he was tutoring a high school boy. It got late. The buses had stopped running. The boy lived far away and asked if he could crash on his floor. At first, Rocky said no. I mean, a teenage student. His apartment was tiny, but the boy begged and eventually, he gave in. He made a bed on the floor. He got into his. They both fell asleep. At around 2 a.m., the boy shook his awake. "Boy," whispered V.O., "I'm really hungry. Let's go get some food." Rocky, still groggy, blinked at him. "Now? It's 2 a.m. Eat the ramen in the kitchen." He shook his head. "No, not ramen. Let's go out." After arguing for a few minutes, he gave up and threw on a jacket. They stepped out onto the dark street. That's when the boy turned to him and said, "I'm not hungry. I woke up and looked under your bed. There's a man sleeping there." They called the police. Turns out, a homeless man had been living under her bed for almost 2 months. He had no idea, but he did, because he had to sleep on the floor. Story 3. The Boy in the Drain Tunnel. I grew up in a small town where kids made their own fun. One summer, my friends and I found this huge concrete drainage tunnel in the woods. Graffiti covered the walls. It echoed like crazy. Naturally, we dared each other to go in. It was our bravery test. I went last. As I walked deeper, the light faded fast behind me. The air turned cold. The others were just silhouettes now, laughing. Then I heard something. Not from my friends. It was coming from further in. "Hello," I called. The crying stopped. A moment later, I saw a boy, maybe 8, standing in ankle-deep water. His back was to me. He was shaking. He didn't respond when I asked if he was okay. Then, in a voice that wasn't his, he whispered, "He doesn't like the light." The boy turned around. His face was pale, blank. His eyes were completely black. I screamed. The others thought I was joking, until we all heard a growl echo from deep inside the tunnel. We ran, never went back. 2 weeks later, a city worker was doing maintenance in the tunnels. He vanished. All they found was his flashlight, still on, spinning in circles. Story 4. The Woman at the Window. My grandmother lived in a peaceful, quiet farmhouse at the edge of town. After she passed, I moved in temporarily while sorting out her estate. Everything was normal until the second night. Around 2 a.m., I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone when I got that strange feeling, like I was being watched. I looked toward the window. There she was, a woman, standing just outside the window, pale, thin, wearing what looked like a hospital gown. Her eyes were locked onto mine. I froze. She didn't move. I live on the second floor. I blinked. She was gone. The next morning, I chalked it up to a dream until I saw muddy handprints on the outside of the window. I checked the backyard. There were no footprints in the soil below the window, just scratch marks on the siding, like someone had climbed up with their bare hands. That night I slept in the living room, but at 2 a.m., on the dot, she appeared again. This time not outside, she was standing in the corner of the room, and she smiled. Story 5. A passenger that wasn't there. I was driving home from a late shift. The road was dark, the kind where streetlights seem to avoid you on purpose. I had about an hour left to go. Just me, the hum of the engine, and the rhythmic sound of tires on wet asphalt. Then I saw her, a woman standing by the roadside in a soaked white dress, holding her thumb out. I never pick up hitchhikers, but something about her made me pull over. She got in silently. Her face was pale, her lips slightly blue. I asked where she was heading. She just whispered, "Home." We drove for maybe 10 minutes in silence until she pointed to a narrow dirt road off the main highway. As soon as I turned onto it, I realized something felt off. The trees felt like they were closing in. The rain stopped suddenly. No wind, no sound, nothing. I looked in the rearview mirror, and she was gone. Just an empty soaked seat. I slammed on the brakes and got out. Nothing. Not even wet footprints on the floor. Just one thing left behind. A withered corsage, still damp but cold as ice. The road I was on? It didn't exist on the GPS. When I finally got back to the highway, it was 2 hours later, even though I'd only been gone 15 minutes. Story 6. The cemetery job. I used to do maintenance for an old cemetery just outside a dying town. It wasn't a bad gig. Mow the grass, fix the fencing, make sure no vandals got in. One night I was covering a grave exhumation. Some family requested a body be moved across the country. I was told not to look inside the coffin, but curiosity, as always, got the better of me. The wood was old, brittle. When we lifted the lid, the corpse was fresh. The death certificate said he'd been buried 35 years ago. I asked the mortician if he'd seen anything like that before. He just muttered, "Sometimes they don't stay dead." Not all the way. I laughed, nervously, until I saw the man's eyes were slightly open. The family called the next day to say they'd never asked for the body to be moved. The paperwork, it vanished from the cemetery records overnight, and the grave filled itself in like it had never been touched. Story 7. The girl in the window. When I was 8, I had a friend named Ellie who lived across the street. We used to wave to each other from our bedroom windows before bed. One night I saw her waving like usual, but something felt off. Her smile was too wide, her head tilted just a little too far. I mentioned it to my mom the next morning. She went pale. Ellie's family moved out 3 days ago, she said. That house is empty. I didn't believe her. And there she was, waving. But this time she pressed her hand to the glass, and her handprint appeared on my window. I screamed. My parents searched the house, called the police, even had a priest come by. They thought it was a trauma response. I'd had a few night terrors as a toddler, but then other neighbors started seeing her too, the girl waving from the empty house. Eventually, they boarded up the windows. Still, sometimes when I pass by at night, I feel someone watching, waving, and waiting. Story 8. Don't look in the cellar. It was supposed to be a reunion. Me and 5 college friends at the old family cabin deep in the mountains. No cell service, just firewood and bad decisions. The first night, everything was fine. Second night, Jason said he heard knocking from under the floorboards. We joked about it, maybe mice, maybe a raccoon. On the third night, Kara found the old cellar door behind the fireplace, the one my grandfather swore never existed. We shouldn't have opened it, but curiosity is cruel. Inside was a steep staircase leading to dirt and stone, with carvings on the walls, symbols none of us recognized, spirals, stick figures, bleeding eyes. Then we heard whispering, but none of us were talking. We bolted, but the cellar door slammed shut. Mike tried kicking it down while the rest of us screamed. Then the whispering stopped. Total silence. The door creaked open, and Mike was gone. No blood, no drag marks, no signs of struggle. Just his phone on the floor, the flashlight still on. We left the next morning, all of us except Mike, but sometimes I still get voicemails from his number. Always just static, and something whispering in a voice that sounds like mine. Story 9, the interview. I was desperate. Rent was overdue, my car was dying, and I hadn't had a steady job in months. So when I got a strange email inviting me for an interview at a company I didn't remember applying to, I went. The building was glass and steel, pristine but eerily quiet. No receptionist, just a touchscreen saying, "Welcome. Proceed to room 27. The hallway stretched far too long, and the lighting flickered like it was thinking about going out. I passed one door, then two, then three. Each room had no handles, just a small slot and a dim red light above it. Room 27 finally appeared, but it wasn't a room. It was an elevator, with no buttons inside. I hesitated. The door closed behind me. Then the floor dropped. Not down, sideways. When it opened, a man in a black suit was waiting. No eyes, just smooth skin where his face should have been. He gestured for me to sit. I don't remember the questions, just that they weren't about skills or experience. They were about loyalty, silence, sacrifice. And then he asked in a voice like a chorus of dead things, "Would you bleed for us?" I ran. The hallway back was gone. But I woke up at home. No memory of leaving. And on my desk, an envelope. Inside, a company badge with my face. And underneath it, "Welcome to the team." Story 10, the death app. It started as a joke, a trend online. People were downloading this new app called Final Step. It claimed it could tell you the exact location where you would die. I thought it was stupid. But hey, free entertainment. I downloaded it. It asked for permissions, all of them. Location, microphone, camera, even access to other apps. I hit allow without thinking. Then it showed a map, zoomed in slowly, and marked a red X just a few blocks from my apartment. Tonight, 2:13 a.m. I laughed. Creepy, sure, but fake, right? I screenshotted it, sent it to my friend Jason. He replied, "Bro, that's near where Claire died last month." Claire, his ex. She got mugged and stabbed on that exact street. Suddenly, the joke didn't feel so funny. I tried to delete the app. It wouldn't let me. I reset my phone. When it turned back on, the app was still there. Worse, it had moved the X. Now it was inside my building. I left, ran to Jason's place. Didn't tell him why, but even there, the X updated again. 2:13 a.m. Jason's house. I smashed the phone. 2:12 a.m. The lights went out. Jason screamed. Something pulled him into the hallway. I hid in the closet, sobbing. My phone, still shattered on the floor, turned on by itself. The X moved again. It was right outside the closet.